welcome to this new episode of our show. Today we have the pleasure of having with us Giovanna Perrotta. Giovanna is a program manager with more than 10 years of experience in project management, manufacturing excellence and business operations. She has got a degree in industrial engineering from the University of Naples, worked for some leading industrial groups over the years, developing very interesting initiatives with a focus on lean manufacturing, for example, and operations excellence. Today, she's the program manager for launch and expansion in one of the very big global tech companies, where she's involved in leading some very interesting strategic initiatives for operational excellence. So Giovanna, is really a pleasure to have you with us. And I would like to ask you maybe if you can add a little bit of color to this biography that I just read to introduce you.
Yes, thank you. And first of all, it's a pleasure for me to be with you today. As you anticipated, I got a master's degree in industrial engineering in 2015, and then later my career started in 2015, yes, with the first Tiberina Group, which is one of maker for the automotive industry here in Italy, and later I joined Ariston Thermo Group. And for both companies, my role was to develop and improve plant KPIs, applying the WCM tools, which is the world-class manufacturing methodologies and lean principles. Then from 2018 to 2022, I joined Magneti Marelli, which is another car maker company here in Italy with a global footprint. And my role was the global WCM manager. And the focus was to lead the deployment of the world-class manufacturing across 15 plants around the world.
Wow, nice.
Yeah.
That must have been fun.
Yes, definitely. Then, since 2022, I joined one of the biggest tech company that we have right now, working in the launch and expansion team. And currently, as a program manager, my role focuses on designing and leading strategic and data-driven programs, which enhance the operational efficiency and innovations. And my role also gave me the possibility to collaborate closely with our senior leadership and also cross-functional teams all around Europe.
Excellent.
Oh, that is amazing. I met Giovanna years ago at Ariston Thermo. We worked together for a while, so that is a super pleasure to have her here. And going into weeds about this interview, this episode, as the entire series is about globalizations, like new trend and regionalization together with industrial aspects and together with carry-ons and sustainability. I would, step by step join into this conversation into deep and let's get the globalization topic. Something is changing all around the world. There's a lot of geopolitics, tensions, turmoil. Keep in mind we started to record episodes months ago, and a lot happened. In the meanwhile, what do you see? What do you see in terms of globalization, new trends, regionalization, maybe a local to local / regional scenario?
Yes, I believe that globalization is still very much alive, but especially with the recent things that happened, the dynamics are changing. Over the past few years, especially with the pandemic and also with the most recent happening, I think we have seen more companies rethinking on how and where they have to operate. For example, the pandemic exposed how vulnerable global supply chains can be, and especially when overly dependent on distant suppliers. And many companies started turning to regional or nearshore solutions to reduce these risks. Another factor, which is, I think, pushing the shift toward regionalization, as you also mentioned, is the geopolitical tensions, like the trade wars which are ongoing right now, I think have accelerated this shift, pushing businesses to diversify the supply chains and reduce reliance on specific countries. And then third point, which I think is also super important, is sustainability. As companies, governments, and even the consumers are demanding for greener and more ethical supply chains, which are easier to be managed when the, of course, are more localized. So I think there is also this, the sustainability is pushing and pushing yes toward the regionalization.
Very interesting. I guess in this context, Giovanna, do you recognize, I guess, any specific drivers of that of those you mentioned, being particularly meaningful? This means, do they have the same weight at the end, or based on your experience, based on the type of industrial value chains or value chains in tech that you have experienced, do you see certain topics, really dominating the conversation that is leading to a new value chain designs?
Yes, definitely. I think there are several key drivers. Some of them are long-standing and well-known, but some others are newer. For sure, geopolitical factors, as I already said,
Yeah.
tariffs, sanctions, and these trade tensions are having an impact and are driving this way of rethinking the global footprint for most of the companies. Is sustainability, which I think is one
Yeah,
of
and we can elaborate on that.
Yes, exactly. I think businesses are under increasing pressures to reduce their environmental impact and operate in a way that
Yeah.
aligns with the overall global goals and also consumer values. And then there is the technology, which I think is can be considered as a newer, because we have the influence of new technologies like artificial intelligence, data analytics, which
Yeah.
are making, in some cases, localized production more feasible and efficient, and is helping in reducing the need for offshoring.
For offshoring. That's interesting. And I kind of wanted to jump in on the topic of sustainability that you just mentioned, because as you know, being a professor in strategy and sustainability, I'm very passionate about that topic. And of course, sustainability is again a very broad theme. You have, environmental topics within sustainability, social topics within sustainability, governance, the entire ESG acronym and whatever goes under the ESG, acronym is there. So I guess when you look at, for example, the recent years, have you seen, any specific ESG drivers, being relevant for supply chain and value chain thinking?
Yes. I think is these three topics, environmental, social, governance, are more often becoming super important about supply chains. If I think on the environmental side, I think, as I already said, business are working hard to reduce emissions, especially in logistics and manufacturing. And this means rethinking about the transportation methods, think about use greener technologies, and even regionalizing and localizing production if it's possible to reduce the carbon footprint. On the
Yeah.
social side, I think that one of the most important topic for most of the companies, for example, my companies is an example, is becoming the gender equality and inclusions, as they are becoming real priorities.
Very interesting.
And yeah, I think that ensuring fair pay, equal opportunities, and safe conditions are becoming really a priority,
Yeah.
and has to become a priority. And for governance, I think there is more pressure on build transparent and risk-aware supply chains. And as a consequence, companies are strengthening their due diligence process, also
Yeah.
to avoid reputational and operational risks. This is
Yeah.
something that I can ensure that it's becoming part of
Yeah.
an important part of
Of business.
project process and business.
I think you're making an absolutely good point. I was in China like 6 weeks ago and connected with some big manufacturers there, and they were telling me that they basically feel the pressure of their international clients more and more. I had basically, people telling me that they have put together an entire kind of sustainability team to manage audits because they get like audits every single week. So I think the pressure, you're absolutely right, is growing because there is an understanding that certain type of ESG problems can, become serious risks, and therefore, you need to manage that. So yeah, I think it's a very interesting topic.
Also, Giovanna told us, supply chains are shrinking to, maybe reduce risk, reducing the time. And it is super interesting because there is a trend that definitely we are looking at. It's a trend that we are noticing across more or less a lot of sectors, Paolo. And for example, I had to deal like a few weeks ago with other like Chinese operators, and where a container like getting like time to start from China and get to West. I got that China, these operators are creating facilities closer to client on the other side to shrink the timing and to shrink the overall chain. So this could be a trend. I don't know which are the operationals like trend you are noticing, for a global value chain.
Yeah, I think definitely risk management is a huge one.
Risk
Recent
management.
recent events showed us how fragile the global network can be. So now there is a strong focus on building resilience. The focus is
Yeah.
diversifying suppliers, adding inventory buffers, and also improving the business continuity planning. Another big challenge, if I can add, is the sustainability when it's think in operations, because reducing energy and waste is not just about any more cost, but we have to think about long-term view and also meeting the global environmental standards.
That's a good point.
Yeah, and lastly, if I may add, I think the logistic optimization, which another big issue, which is affecting the global value chain, because with the explosion of the e-commerce, there is an increasing pressure to improve the last mile
Yeah,
delivery,
of course.
which means, and is reflected in new and upcoming way of deliver. Like if we think about drones, autonomous
Yeah.
vehicles, or the local fulfillment apps, as you were mentioning, Francesco, this is something that
Yeah.
for sure it will come.
And listen, we are interviewing a lot of different like professionals in so different sectors and different stakeholders, coming up as relevant and with different roles and importance. Which are the stakeholders you want to highlight in your business, or at least in the business you are in currently?
Think that both customer and investors can for sure driving change, but
Mm-hmm.
they are doing it from a different angle and a different perspective. I
Mm-hmm.
see that investors are more and more demanding for transparency, sustainability, and better risk management, but
Mm-hmm.
just because they look at that with a long-term value. On the other
Yeah.
side, and for example, in my case, is super important are the customers, because they are becoming more value driven. They are even more often demanding for ethical, fast, and eco-friendly products. So I think in many cases, customers and investors are both driving change and their expectations are aligned, and they together push companies on rethinking how supply chains should be built and managed.
And
Amazing.
can I ask you, Giovanna? We want this, I guess, podcast to be kind of a very practical one. So on top of, I guess, sharing thoughts and ideas, we kind of like to share practical, case studies of transformation. So I'm wondering if there is an example of value chain restructuring that you have seen in the recent years, maybe in your organizations, in your sector, or in another one that you think is an interesting case study for our audience.
Yes, sure. One example that come to my mind is related to the semiconductor shortage that happened in 2020. I was working in Magneti Marelli at that time, and that event affected a lot the automotive industry. So I think the global reliance on a very limited number of chip producers, which were mostly located in Asia, caused major delays and production stoppages. As a result, and even my company was affected by that event, as a result, I have seen a change in the organization, and especially I have experienced a shift from a just-in-time inventory model to a just-in-case approach. And also another change was as a consequence, it was bypassed the traditional tier one suppliers, and the car makers at that time started to build partnership directly with the chip manufacturers.
I see.
No, that's a totally interesting. Never heard about just in time to just in case, but keep in mind for future application in supply chain management, which are, best practices or trends that you see as super relevant you want to highlight?
I think that let me say, the secret to be successful for the companies should be to always look at flexibility, sustainability, and smart tech integrations. I think that to be a competitive supply chain today, the companies should look at and should have as a focus the strength on local or regional sourcing, of course, if it's possible, because not always possible, reducing the lead time, using strategic inventory, and start using artificial intelligence for forecasting, risk modeling, and also planning. And another important...
That's interesting. Just super connection here. Paolo, a lot of people are telling. So I remember like the other episode that yesterday we recorded a lot of planning forecasting from EI now coming up, and in some time like revealing the opposite that what normal people were used to. So that's so interesting about this reshape of the practice. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, and that's all. I think the other important factor is, as I said, sustainability. So companies and businesses has to start really measuring and put in practice actions to reduce their carbon footprint.
That's super interesting, and thank you for sharing. And Giovanna, besides common practices in supply chain management that you talked about in so many interesting ways along your career, visited so many companies, places also with tough industries such as like automotive, so with a lot of attention on, marginality, cost, is there any practice, any exercise, any, lesson learned that you want to share with us in this podcast?
Yes, I want to share with you one initiative for which I'm particularly proud of. As my company has pledged to become carbon neutral by 2040 and also has shared the goal to deploy 100,000 electric delivery vans globally by 2030. And I'm particularly proud that what I've done since I am in the current role to support this big commitment to sustainability. It's a really a bold goal, and I'm proud that I'm making my part in making it real. As a program manager, I've led many infrastructure projects. This is my focus mainly, and part of my scope is preparing facilities not only to be capable of supporting our current operation, our existing operations, but the goal is also to let them be equipped for our future electric vehicle fleet. one of the biggest challenges is balancing the cost efficiency with the long-term sustainability goals, as all the sustainable infrastructure planning requires a care consideration of the future needs while maintaining the current budget. And this involves strategic planning to ensure that investments done today will remain valuable for future operations.
Sure.
So I'm proud of we developed scalable solutions through this careful planning and also engaging different stakeholders. And I think that one of the biggest lessons learned is that it's really important to create an early collaboration and data-driven decision-making to deliver good results in the end.
Very interesting.
Thanks.
So on top of, I guess, planning for resiliency is also planning for scalability. That's, I guess, another interesting message that you're sharing. I guess, Giovanna, maybe one final question, if you don't mind, also conscious of time. And basically, I would like to shift a little bit the time horizon of our conversation. This means we kind of discussed what has been happening recently, what is happening now, but I would like to understand what is your point of view about, what could be the situation, let's say, 5 years from now? Do you kind of imagine a situation where the same drivers that we discussed today remain the drivers at the base of value chain design and value chain considerations, or for example you see certain factors becoming less relevant and maybe other factors or new factors becoming relevant?
Yeah, I think that the key drivers will mainly remain the same, but they will evolve, meaning that they will, I think the core driver will remain technology, be flexible, and sustainability. But we will look at them with a different level of details and urgency. So meaning that they will evolve at a different level.
Yeah.
For example, I believe that digitalization and flexibility will still remain as a key, but we will see a stronger shift, as we also mentioned earlier, toward artificial intelligence-driven automation and predictive planning. And also sustainability, I think now is considered as a nice to have, but in the future, I think in the 5 to 7 years horizon will become a must-have.
Critical for success.
Stronger regulations, yes, and also growing risks coming.
Yeah. And we definitely have seen these, I guess, factor coming, with the, for example, the European Union promoting the due diligence on kind of proper ESG due diligence on supply chains. Even if that directive is still being discussed, is coming, right, in some form or shape. So that will definitely kind of create the pressure on companies to address ESG as not as a nice to have, but as a critical, I guess, element in supply chain management. So thank you, Giovanna. This was really an insightful collaboration, and conversation. So thank you for being on our show. Congratulations for all the good work you are doing. Best of luck with everything.
Thanks again, both of you, for inviting me. And it was really, really great.
Sure. Thank you, Giovanna.
Thank you for listening to this episode. If you enjoyed this discussion, we invite you to like and share this episode on your social media. Enjoy the rest of your day.